Fortunately, there was a 24-hour emergency room right between me and the state park, which is only a mile or so from the hotel, and they didn't have much of a wait being in the middle of nowhere, Utah. As I get closer to 10 years of full-time automotive content creation online, it's always fascinating to me to see how other people approach the same business model. And obviously when Tyler and Freddie and I are together for whatever we're doing, especially when we're filming Car Trek, which we just finished shooting Car Trek 11, and it will be on VINwiki hopefully sometime in May. Takes a little longer to edit those than our normal car stories, but especially as you try to take things to that next level from whatever the normal content model is, that's what I really find interesting and very exciting. And I've learned a lot over the last couple of years about the off-road automotive YouTube space, particularly through Matt's Off-Road Recovery. Now, Christopher Michaels met up with the team from Matt's Off-Road Recovery back in 2023 during our Sway North American expedition. And last year, I went with Christopher to compete in the off-road games. Now, this is a once-a-year thing that started out as the record games where they would just bring a lot of people to Sand Hollow, Utah, and Hurricane, Utah, or Hurricane, Utah, the way they say it, where Matt generally works and rescues people that are out stuck on the trails. And that's a really, really cool thing because they've learned that obviously they get paid by the people who are stuck or need a repair in these parks or on these off-road trails around Moab and things like that to go out and rescue them. But when they film it, it becomes great content. And so their viewers love it. They've got a lot of great personalities, multiple people doing things, rescuing things, and the whole team is on the channel. And I just think it's amazing. But I had no idea until last year when I teamed up with Matt from Bleepin' Jeep to take his Jeep buggy along the course. We also did some off-roading up in Windrock. I had no idea just how capable these rigs could be. And to be honest, last year they were probably too capable in that most of the obstacles were easier than you'd like them to be. In fact, Matt just told me to kind of drive up the side of one of them just so I'd fall over just to see how it would go. And so this year they were going to do things a little bit differently, and they invited me back again. And they were going to team the kind of non-off-roading YouTubers like me with the established off-road content creators in their network of friends and acquaintances. And so I was teamed up with Rory Irish from Trailmater. And one of the things that's immediately apparent when you're out at this event is just how passionate all the fans of these channels are. So Rory kind of operates on the Moab side, but they're friends and they're always collaborating and doing different drives and things like that together. And so he was the perfect teammate. But the difference this year is that rather than being in their fully prepped, money no object rigs they built over the years of content creation, that they were going to be building with a $5,000 or so budget. Now there wasn't a lot of enforcement of that, and there was certainly some stretching around, but regardless, they came out super duper cool. They were supposed to be kind of built like a high schooler would. So Rory put fake bead locks and white letter tires, and they had to be on 33s rather than most of these guys are running 40 inches or bigger tires, which is amazing to see, and they drive straight up things. But this was just a Jeep Wrangler, and it was a manual. Now, I was told last year that very few people still off-road in manuals, but since Rory does real towing, he felt like that was better, and he asked how comfortable I was with the manual. I said, that's no problem at all. But, generally when you're trying to climb straight up walls, I didn't know how difficult that would be. Now, it would turn out that with everything in low ratios, it just crawls, and really you need to start in third to do anything smoothly, and so it was not that big of a deal, but it certainly is a bigger challenge than I was used to be able to do that, and I had such a blast. This thing, despite being really built on a budget, this was just a free Jeep that he'd had that he kind of put back together and built this exoskeleton cage and put all the things on it, and it actually has become one of his most used tow rigs because he built it as like mini mater or like his big trail mater, tow mater, I don't know what they call it, but it was super cool. So we put all the sponsor stickers on the windshield. He had kind of airbrushed it to look exactly like its big brother, and we went out to compete. And so Christopher was being the MC for the entire event. And again, just seeing the way that the audience really just buys in. There's more than 10,000 people buying tickets to go out in the desert for a few days to play with their own rigs, to rent side-by-sides, obviously buy a lot of merch and interact with some of their favorite content creators. And it's just wildly different than my experience when we go and do, something at Pebble Beach or Amelia Island or Moda or any of the more, exotic and supercar events that I tend to do. And so I loved seeing the differences and also just the similarities in the enthusiasm for cars and just the ways that we love to do this stuff. Now, the real gimmick this year was that in addition to these low budget builds, on the first day of the two that we'd be going up one of the more complicated trails in Sand Hollow State Park, they were going to remove the shocks from the car. So we would just be bouncing around on on the springs, which sounds entertaining and was very entertaining to watch these things bounce as they are obviously running up against all these obstacles, but holy cow, it destroyed my back. And so at the end of the day, I was starting to feel it, and I woke up the next morning barely able to get out of bed. Fortunately, there was a 24-hour emergency room right between me and the state park, which is only a mile or so from the hotel, and they didn't have much of a wait being in the middle of nowhere, Utah. And so I went in there and said, hey, why not? Let's see what these guys think and make sure I didn't do anything terribly meaningful. And so they did a CT scan and very quickly said, no, it's just, muscular soreness, and that makes sense because I have that just generally being the old man that I feel like every morning. So all good there. Went back, did the second day on some muscle relaxers and pain medicine, and had a blast. I did not win. Last year, me and Matt took second, but honestly, the scoring and all that doesn't really matter. It's all about the experience and engaging with the crowd and making sure they have fun. But honestly, even though you'd probably spend $10,000 to $15,000 recreating this rig if you weren't a master welder like Rory is, but it was phenomenal. The thing just went everywhere you asked it to. There were a couple of obstacles that I guess because of the different ways Matt's used the trails over the last few months were made nearly impossible. We had to winch out of things, but everybody was. And it was certainly staying with everybody else in the convoy. And watching that kind of proceed up the mountain and the way that they were able to do a full live broadcast of everything with MCs and multiple microphones, and they have speakers on top of other Jeeps that they're running on. It is a massive production and well over 100 volunteers making it happen with all the team from Matt's Off-Road Recovery. And so I'm very grateful to Matt, certainly grateful to Rory and the Trailmater team for being such great hosts and teammates. And I've never had another automotive experience quite like the off-road games. Now, the Jeep did miss a step one day because of the way they do hydraulic assist steering. If you got to full lock and kept it there for too long with the front locker on, it would sometimes throw the accessory belt. And Rory comes out with barely any tools on board, to be quite honest. I mean, he had enough stuff to fix whatever we would need to, but he comes out and is able to look up on his phone the right routing, throw the thing back on, it hadn't torn, and get us right back on the road. He also rescued the Peck brothers and Robbie Layton and several other people that broke things more meaningfully. But just having that spirit of like, these cars can go anywhere you ask them to, and these guys are prepared enough to put everything back together when it goes wrong. It just doesn't get any cooler than that. So thank you guys for supporting them. Thank you for watching. And I'm sure I'll have many more on and off-road adventures ahead. This month of VINwiki content is brought to you by Bridgestone, and the most exciting news out of Bridgestone is the new release of their Turanza Prestige tire. It is their flagship Grand Touring tire, targeting luxury SUVs, crossovers, and sedans, like a Mercedes S-Class or a BMW X7. And this gives you all the whisper quiet ride that you want in a high-end luxury experience, as well as the wet and dry weather performance that we love from Bridgestone. And you'll get some of the greatest longevity they've ever had on street tires, 70,000 mile limited warranty. So we love Bridgestone for their sports car and supercar tires in the Potenza range. Of course, the Dueler AT Ascent that I've got on my Porsche Cayenne, I absolutely love. But whatever you're looking to find tires for, Bridgestone has something great. So check them out now at the link in the description below to learn more about the Bridgestone family of tires.